What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and happy Memorial Day to all of my viewers in the United States. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. And if you guys are wondering, yes, I am doing a holiday video today. That's a bit of a weird one, right? I usually take holidays off, but there is a bit of a catch. I will not be doing the full update breakdown in today's video because, to be honest, as I mentioned, it's a holiday and yeah, I kind of have plans today. So instead, I'm going to be doing the full update breakdown in tomorrow's video. So if you guys are worried about that, don't worry, I will be doing that in tomorrow's video. But I figured today, being that it is the holiday, I would still go ahead and give you guys something to take a look at. So I figure that we'll go ahead and take a look at the EX Volume 2 banners. We'll see what there is to see when it comes to EX Angel's kit, of course, and then we'll take a look at the newest card banner and just kind of see on a surface level what we're thinking about these things, because to be honest, pretty interesting stuff in here, especially when it comes to Angel's kit. So we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be going ahead and redeeming our tickets as well as our login rubies. So we have a few things that we're going to do as far as summons are concerned in today's video also at the end. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Cue that intro. Alright, you guys, so in today's video we're going to go ahead and talk about EX Volume 2. We're going to give our first impressions on EX Angel as well as the newest cards on the banner, and then after that we're going to go ahead and redeem our tickets for our login bonus as well as our login rubies. So we are going to be doing a little bit of summoning in today's video, but first I want to go ahead and talk about what is on the banners themselves. So first up, let's go ahead and talk about EX Angel, right? So EX Angel is going to be a green balance type with a leadership ability that increases EX fighters' attack by 40% and their critical damage by 60%. So there's a couple of things right off the bat I want to point out. So EX Angel being a green balance type with explosion, which we will talk about when we get into the kit, is going to be a character that is going to stand out in things such as Reviving Hell's Dungeon, specifically high levels of Reviving Hell's Dungeon. So right off the bat, there is a major glaring use case for this character that I think a lot of people out there that are still needing help with Reviving Hell's Dungeon are going to appreciate. Now, when it comes to her leadership ability, and a lot of the theme of this character's kit as we go through here is going to be experimental. I feel like this is a character that they definitely are experimenting with as far as what they did, and we'll talk about that as we go through the kit specifically when we get to the cores, but I would argue that the leadership ability is also going to be kind of in that same realm. So it increases your EX fighter's attack by 40%, but then increases their critical damage by 60%. So you are going to notice that the increase to attack is lower than what we're normally used to with a lot of the leaders that we would normally use and things specifically like Guild Raid and so on. However, what she lacks in that percentage there on the attack, she makes up for in 60% increase to your critical damage. That's a really interesting leadership ability. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be usurping any of the past leadership abilities that we would normally be used to. But I could definitely see there being a case to be made for this leadership ability if you wanted to use it on a character that is heavy on the crits and you built around it. I don't know, I'm kind of interested to test that out and see how that would perform. But in general, I'm going to say that while it's not the best leadership ability in the game, it's not a bad one by any stretch of the imagination. But when we talk about other things here, we should point out she does have the Operation Kitty tag as well. This is important for those new stones, so that is something that is worth noting. But beyond that, that's pretty much the surface level with Angel. Again, very interesting as far as high levels of Reviving Hell's Dungeon. But let's talk about the kit. Now, when it comes to the kit, first thing you're going to notice is she does have that 30% power charge rate increase. She's going to have various increases to things such as her crit and her grabs. So interesting stuff right off the bat. This is a character that is going to be talking quite a bit about crits in her kit, but in general, when we get into the exclusive cores, which is of course going to be where it gets interesting, we have Enchanting. Now this is going to reflect stun. So pretty good stuff right there. It's also going to give her poison immunity. So pretty much tells you what dot she's going to have, right? And then when it comes to the rest of it, she's going to activate Finish Roll when attacking targets that can't be grabbed. which means that for 1 second, she's going to inflict bleed damage equal to 550% of attack every 0.15 seconds. And then she's going to cast that shield that absorbs damage for 7 seconds when using an active skill, and removes the shield when attacked 30 times on a cooldown of 12 seconds. So basically, when it comes to Angel, she is going to be a mostly grab skill based unit. I believe her only skill that isn't a grab is her S1. So when we talk about her having this effect here, which is finishing roll, this of course is going to be very reminiscent of Stun Fang on a character such as SS Blue Mary. We had talked about how she was likely to have an effect such as this to protect her, being that she was going to probably be a grab-based unit. And of course she does have it with bleed damage. In general, this character having this here is pretty much, this is going to be what saves her entire kit as far as her grabs are concerned. And these types of skills are definitely going to be offering up a lot of damage normally. We saw what that did for SS Blue Mary. And in general, I think that this character is basically going to be an upgraded version of SS Blue Mary for the most part. Of course, she's going to have different dots, but I digress. Being able to reflect stun, that's really nice to reflect that as a normal CC. It's a CC that is pretty prominent, so very nice that she has it. Poison immunity, we're seeing this more and more with these EX characters now being immune to the dot that they are proficient in, so not anything too surprising. And then she does have that shield. It is not going to be the crit shield, which I thought would have been kind of ironic for her kit, but they didn't go that direction. But in general, at least she has a shield, so that's pretty important. So next up here, let's talk about the next core that she has, which is going to be Please Cheer Me On. This is going to increase her critical rate by 15% for 3 seconds upon landing an attack, and resets upon landing a critical hit. So basically, she's going to get this increase, but then when she lands a crit, it's going to reset it. So nice little core, very different. Again, experimental stuff that they're doing with this kit, but this is really where all the experimenting is being done, or at least the bulk of it, because we're also going to have the effect of inflicting Symbol, which is an entirely new effect for EX Angel. For 7 seconds upon landing a critical hit on a target on a cooldown of 10 seconds. She increases her poison explosion by 200% upon attacking a target with the symbol, and increases damage to burn and shock dealt to the target with the symbol by 70%. So when we take a look at this, everything in here is pretty new, right? So inflicting Symbol does something that is exclusive to her for the time being for 7 seconds upon landing a critical hit. So when she crits, she's going to put Symbol on the character for 7 seconds on a cooldown of 10 seconds, and that's going to increase her poison explosion by a whopping 200%. So you can see where this character's damage ramp is coming in big right here, and then she's going to also be able to increase the damage of burn and shock dealt to the target with the Symbol by 70%. So interesting second half of this. I'm not necessarily sure that that's anything I'm really all that, yeah, I mean, I think that that's kind of just a bonus on top of what we're already getting here, which is pretty good. It's not something that I think is all that important because she doesn't have either of those dots. So, you know, maybe if you're using a striker or you tag her back in after having somebody in with those 2 dots or whatever the case may be, I'm not too sure. It's a very weird one, but in general, you can definitely see where this character is trying to get her damage from. Between having finishing roll and then having this symbol, basically she's going to have quite a bit of damage on there with that explosion. The explosion that she's going to have is going to be doing absolutely ridiculously high amounts of damage if you overclock her and overbuild her and build her for that explosion. So in general, really, really interesting stuff. I think that this character is going to be a whole lot of fun, especially considering her skills are very quick. But yeah, interesting stuff, you guys. Now, next up here, let's go ahead and take a look at the skills, right? So on the S1, we do have Derive skill. So let's go ahead and go through it. Now, this is going to be Unchained Step. It is going to be a strike skill. Now, this is the only skill on her kit that is not a grab skill, so keep that in mind. Everything else on here is going to be a grab, right? So let's take a look here. It is a Drive skill, so the first step of it is going to be an Interrupt. So of course we can use this when standing, airborne, or knocked down. You're going to increase your attack by 40% for 5 seconds. You're going to have a 50% chance to reset the cooldown of Unchained Blow Assault Neck Cutter, which is going to be, I believe, the S2, yes. So you can reset the S2 with the first phase of the S1 on the drive skill. So that is pretty cool. She's also going to be able to use it to petrify all enemies for 3 seconds on a cooldown of 7 seconds. So she has petrify, right? We don't see petrify very often, although it's one that I would argue I would like to see more often, but very cool that we see it here. And she's going to be able to have that 50% chance to reset the S2, which is really nice because that's going to be an important skill for her. And in general, pretty good stuff. But we still have one more effect on here, because on the second step of the derive skill, she's going to be able to increase her attack by 45% for 5 seconds. So basically an extra 5% from what you saw in the first half. And then she's going to deal poison damage equal to 5.5 times of the remaining poison damage and remove the poison effect when attacking a poisoned enemy. So this is going to be her explosion essentially on this second step of the derive skill. So in general, pretty interesting stuff, but we have to take a look at the rest of the skills to get a really good idea here. Now, if we take a look at the S2, this is going to be how she applies her Venom. So this is the skill she can reset with the S1. So important that it is going to be the skill that is going to have the prominent dot is going to be the one that can be reset. Then she's going to increase the target's damage received by 40% for 6 seconds upon landing a skill, with a PvP exclusive of disabling all the enemy's active skills for 3 seconds upon using it. So going through here, she has her poison dot in the form of Venom, which is going to be the tier 2 version of poison. She's going to be able to increase the target's damage received by 40% for 6 seconds. And when it comes to the PvP skill, disabling all of your enemy's active skills for 3 seconds is always pretty darn good. So can't really complain there. So yeah, very solid S2. It is a grab skill again because all of her skills except the S1 are. But we have one more skill here. The S3 is going to be where she has her interrupt with hyper armor. So you guys are going to see that she's going to have a standing and airborne interrupt here, which is phenomenal. And then she has hyper armor with a PvP exclusive of having a 70% chance to remove the target's hyper armor or critical hit shield upon landing a hit. So in general, not a lot to talk about there. She has ye old interrupt with hyper armor, which we always see on these characters anymore. Really cool that it's while standing or airborne. However, you kind of always want to see that airborne there, in my opinion. So in general, really good stuff. Now, we do have a few effects here to talk about when it comes to the finisher stuff, so let's talk about those real quick. So on Real Rave EX, she is going to be able to increase the target's damage received by 15% for 10 seconds upon landing a skill, which is definitely nice to have that there on the core finisher. But in general, if we want to take a look at the 3 PG finishers effect, we will have to go over to the card banner. So let's do that real quick. So if we take a look here at Ascension Time, you guys are going to see that it increases our critical rate by 5% and our critical damage by 20% for 10 seconds when using it. So in general, when it comes to EX Angel's kit, again, I told you guys she's very experimental, very odd, and yeah, I think that she lives up to that. In general, however, if we take a look at her, I think that this is a character that is very quick. She seems like she's very snappy, very fun. I think this is going to be a character that if you're a fan of EX Angel, well, if you're a fan of Angel in general, rather, you're going to be happy with what they gave her here. I don't think that anybody can really complain too much about her, because I do think that if you overclock her and overbuild her, she is going to get a lot of damage out of a full investment because of that explosion and some of those gimmicks. However, being that she is so experimental, I would maybe wait and see if you're somebody that's a meta chaser or somebody that is just there to pick up really strong characters or the strongest characters for your investment that you can. Maybe you decide that you want to just kind of wait around and see a few videos that come out of this character's performance. I would probably recommend that, because whenever you have a character like this that is offering up so many new and interesting things, I would say that you probably want to err on the side of caution. But when it comes to Angel, again, I'm very excited to see her if I can pick her up in action. I'm not entirely sure that that's going to happen at this point because, well, yeah, rates, but in general, I think that if you're a fan of Angel, you pull for her, but I would maybe wait around, see a little bit of footage on this character in action. I can tell you guys, based on what I have seen and based on what I found out from talking to people that do have her, her finisher is going to be fine in things such as Guild Raid. However, against giant bosses like the Spider Robot, etc., it's not going to be very great, so you're not going to necessarily get the full effect out of it there. but in Guild Raid, very good stuff. And in general, I think Angel is probably going to prove to be a very strong character. Time will tell just how strong, but in general, I'm not necessarily thinking she's a must-pull by any stretch of the imagination. However, that's going to obviously be different from person to person depending on how big of a fan you are. So, when it comes to the cards, we have a new set, Angel Stunt. So Angel Stunt is, well, we'll read through it and you guys can tell me what it reminds you of. So it increases your attack at base. So first and foremost, you're getting an increase to your attack. So yeah. And then we also have the effects here, right? So we increase our EX fighter's active skill damage by 25%. Pretty darn okay. I don't know. Whenever it comes to active skill cards and things like that, they can be kind of hit or miss. Increases attack by 20% for 5 seconds when an extreme fighter lands an active skill. So there's the second half. And then finally, she becomes immune to damage for 3 seconds when HP is 10% or less on a cooldown of 35 seconds. So in general, you're going to notice that this is very similar to an Akane set in a lot of ways, because you do have that immunity there, that save when your HP is 10% or less, which is pretty good. In general, it's okay. I don't think this is going to be a card set that I would really go out of my way for. At the end of the day, we're in an entirely new place in the game now with the meta as far as what you're looking for. Typically speaking anymore, what you're really looking for is things such as either crit, or you're looking for something to exploit your damage to your dots for your explosion, and things of that nature. And those are kind of the effects that you usually gravitate towards on these card sets anymore. So things such as active skill damage and so on are nice, but in general, I don't think that this is a must-have set. I think that if you really think about it, think about how often you would use things such as Akane, and then pretty much put this in that same category, because I really don't think that it's that dissimilar from an Akane set to where I would say that it is a card set that you would use outside of those use cases. So like if we go in here, we can take a look at it, right? Take a look at Akane, just so people know what I'm talking about, because I know sometimes people don't even know what kind of, or what card set I'm even talking about. So if we take a look at Akane here, you become immune to damage for 2 seconds if your HP is 1% or less, right? And that's on a cooldown of 45 seconds. So it's obviously an upgrade. It's not going to be a downgrade. I mean, Jesus, Akane set's a unified banner set. Come on. But with Akane's set, you increase your attack by 12% with a 30% chance to deal extra damage equal to 150% of attack upon landing an active skill. So really the similarity here is the save, but the save is better. So it is comparable, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's directly comparable. But even then, I think that the use cases remain the same for the most part. I think it's a good set. I just don't think it's a must-have set. I think it's one that you're probably not going to use that often, but I could be wrong. Again, this is kind of knee-jerk reactions and first impressions, but honestly, I don't think this is a card set you need to go out of your way for, unless you really just have to have that card art, because the card art's adorable if you're a fan of Angel, but in general, pretty good. Again, not something I would say you have to go out of your way for, but still pretty good. As far as other things in here, we already talked about Ascension Time. You're definitely going to need this if you're pulling for Angel. You have to have this card, so I would say we could say that for every 3PG finisher at this point. And then if we take a look at the option card here, this is going to be the last card on the banner. This is going to be an exclusive to Angel. This is going to be her option. If we take a look here, it's going to increase attack by 5%. It's going to decrease your skill cooldowns by 1.2 seconds. And then, of course, you are going to increase your poison damage dealt by 60% for 5 seconds upon using an active skill on a cooldown of 13 seconds as an Angel exclusive. So this is a card that you're definitely going to want if you're planning on building Angel. I think that you want this card. In general, this is a character that's going to be living and breathing and dying off of her explosion. So I would say that you definitely want this card if you're pulling for her. And if you're a fan of Angel, you need it anyway. So yeah, go crazy. But in general, when it comes to the cards, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I don't think the card set is anything that you have to have by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, it's good, but it isn't anything that's great in my opinion. I really like the save on it as a way upgraded version of Akane, but outside of that, I'm not a huge fan of what I'm seeing there, but it isn't bad. When it comes to the option card and the 3PG finisher for Angel, you need to have both of those if you're going to be investing on her and pulling for her. If you get her, you're going to want to make sure you have enough allotted to get either of these or both of these, in my opinion, both. But when it comes to other things here, of course, you have BS Leona's finisher. Yes, Leona looks like she is going to be one of the best supports in the game at this point. So very, very important stuff there. If you're planning on building Leona, you need that as well. But in general, you guys, that's pretty much going to be the banners. I don't think that either of them are anything that is going to be an absolute must have. As far as the card banner or EX Angel, I would argue that probably Leona is going to be... that's going to sound bad to some people. I'm not saying that Angel's not good. By no means am I saying that. I just think that Leona has so many important use cases in the game that people can use her for, and she is such a strong character that I would say that I would rather be worrying about getting her built up, especially considering the rates. But hey, if you're a fan of Angel, she's really, really good. I'm curious to see just how strong her damage is, because I think it's probably going to, with those multipliers, be really good. So, in general, I don't know that I'm going to be over-investing on this banner. I don't know if I'm even going to be investing that much on this banner at all, to be honest with you guys. But we are going to go ahead and gauge what I'm going to do later on by just going ahead and redeeming the freebies. So, of course, we do have one multi for the cards. We have two multis in the form of tickets for the fighters. We also have 3,800 of the login rubies that we can use. So I figure we'll go ahead and do this. So, as always, you guys, praise Rico, believe in the heart of the cards. And let's summon on EX Volume 2, right? So, we'll go ahead and redeem the card tickets first, since we only have one of those. Just get it out of the way, and then we can just focus solely on the fighter banner. But in general, this banner, I'm very curious to see what the experimentation they did with Angel pays off to be. I'm not necessarily sure just how good she is going to end up being just yet. That's the one card on the banner I have that I don't need. Really? What the heck? Double Leona card. Alright, but I'm definitely curious, like I was saying, to see what her kit ends up looking like in action. We're gonna go ahead and just do these one by one here, guys, so this will be the first one. We have two of these. But in general, if you're a fan of Angel, like I said, I think you should be pretty happy. I think she, again, is going to perform quite similarly to what we saw with SS Blue Mary. Somebody turn? Of course not. I just want Leona memories at this point, to be honest. I mean, I would definitely take Angel, for sure, 100%. Especially considering I'm saving, kind of pseudo-saving for a future potential Cronin, and I figure she'll probably have a relation effect to him. So our ticket luck continues. Not a single thing. Alright, so we are going to use our login rubies on the fighters. I'm not as persuaded by the cards this time around as I was on the previous banner, so I'm just going to go ahead and invest these on the fighters. That is pretty much where I'm coming from at this point with this. So the last time we did it the reverse, we invested these on the cards, but again, I'm not as impressed this time around. It's not Angel. Alright. I love this rate. I love the rates so much. Alright. We have, I think, like 3 or 4 multis that we can do. So. Not Angel again. Cool. I see how this is gonna go the entire way. Oh, we have a couple more here, guys. See if we can pull through here at the end. Not looking good. But definitely let me know in the comments section if you guys decide to pull on Angel. Let me know what you think of her. I'm very curious to kind of get early word. I mean, these characters have only been out for a couple hours at this point, so we know very little about them right now as far as how they work in action. But we got one last multi here, you guys. Our final multi for our freebies. Well, we're not getting Angel. We're not getting anything. But anyway, that went about how I expected it to. Anyway, you guys, that is going to do it for me. So tomorrow, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I will do the update breakdown in full. I just figured today, since I don't have as much time as normal, being that it's a holiday and I have, you know, real person things to do, I figured I would just go ahead and do this video today for you guys. But anyway, let me know again if you went in on the banner, how things turned out for you in the comments section. Hopefully you got what you wanted and did a lot better than I did. and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video. You all have an awesome day. Peace.
Continue.